couples who are in trouble.
All of our major preparation programs for engaged couples, I would say right across Canada, are now being conducted by married couples, along with some of the priests. But certainly the major input that is given there is by married couples.
I noticed one thing that the Pope mentioned today, and I think perhaps it deserves some clarification, Father Corriveau. He talked about a sacramental marriage. Now, isn't that a very important point, a sacramental marriage? Just exactly what does he mean by that?
Well, he's used it in a very broad sense. He spoke of the married couple itself and the loving that goes on in a very practical way between the couple themselves and in the family as being the image of the love of God. Now, I think he's placing the whole question of marriage within a whole sacramental understanding of creation, really. Now, when we use it in a more specific sense, when he speaks of the sacrament of marriage, he's referring to that love covenant between two baptized disciples of Christ. And we have always understood that in the Catholic tradition, and I think that's true about several of the other Christian traditions, that is expressing not the human love between a man and a wife in all of its practical ways, expresses and is kind of a vehicle for the love of God, sanctifying and transforming that couple.
David MacDonald, you've had experience as a United Church pastor. Just before we get to you, David, let's mention that the Pope is continuing through the streets of St. John's, and
he's actually driving through the university campus, I think, at the moment.
Yes, that's Memorial University.
Which is where he will be returning later this evening for the final event with the young people there.
And the rain appears to have stopped, as a matter of fact, so perhaps tonight's events will be a bit drier. I hope so, at any rate. But getting back to the subject of the family, David MacDonald, you were talking earlier about the difference in the Protestant tradition. I don't think that difference in the Protestant tradition means that the people have any less, what's the word I'm looking for? Respect. Thank you very much. Any more respect, or any less respect for the family and marriage?
No, I think that it goes back to what I think Father Joe was saying earlier with respect to the need for some ability to have a compassion and to, in a sense, effect a kind of reconciliation when there has been a kind of breakdown of a relationship or a marriage situation. I would have to say, though, that I think one can't say that this is a general situation, because obviously the churches are at various points of the compass with respect to both the change of society and their own theological positions with respect to the marriage and the family. I was thinking as well, Larry, that while the Canadian Church may not be in total agreement with the Pope on questions of birth control, in the area of abortion there is a very strong agreement. And while that perhaps hasn't come out as clearly except in the visit the Pope made to the Francois Charon Center, that is certainly important, I think, to maintain the distinction of the difference there.
I would have to say, David, that from the way I look at it anyway, and I may be wrong, but I don't think so. The Canadian Church and the Holy Father are very much in sync on their understanding of birth control. The other side of the coin of all of moral teaching is the understanding of conscience and how we balance off. It comes back again to the question of the prophetic and the pastoral. You aim for the stars. Where do you land? You hardly ever land the star. That's what the resurrection's all about. So how do you balance off the continual fidelity of preaching the good news in season or out with the capacity to respect the conscience, which, as traditional church teaching says, when all is said and done and the jury's in, a conscience has the last word. And we've always taught even a conscience in error has right. So how does one maintain that double thrust where the prophetic and the challenging is always there? I think the Holy Father himself provided one response to that when he says, it's the faith that's always got to challenge the culture.
I guess there may be some Protestant confusion here, but certainly the perception seems to be that Whereas in the Canadian Catholic context, the question of birth control doesn't seem to have the same sharp edge to it that it does in the views as expressed by the Pope. On the question of abortion, it's quite a different matter, and certainly in recent statements by the Canadian bishops on abortion, they have left no doubt.
That's correct, and I don't think there's very much confusion on that at all. I think that's
Father Corvo, you were
Yes.
going to make a point.
I think, though, that it's the Canadian bishops and many of the conferences of bishops, in kind of balancing off that strong prophetic statement on birth control, have accentuated the principles of conscience in dealing with that particular problem. And therefore, that's where your perception as to, some difference would come in. I think that's very true.
There is, though, a very much more pastoral attitude being taken toward separated and divorced Catholics. They already have their own organization, which is nationwide, and as a matter of fact, I believe they're having a national assembly in Toronto near the end of September.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a more pastoral attitude, but I wonder if some people might suggest that in some cases the Church is hypocritical in its approach to broken marriage. That there is a sort of a double standard in annulment courts and this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is there that possibility?
Oh, the possibility is always there. Having worked closely with people who are seeking an annulment, I have always found it a rather compassionate kind of process. When I was in Peterborough, I had some close contact with that kind of thing. We were processing some of the cases, and we tried to do a great deal at a parish level. And our concern was very much to bring the compassion of the Church to the couples. Now, whether that's hypocritical, I would look at it as compassionate. That again, it is the whole thing of attempting to proclaim the whole value of committed love, but at the same time dealing with brokenness.
Well, I think that we've been talking for a while about some of the problems surrounding marriage and family life that the Pope addressed today, but I think we should again re-emphasize the importance of the family. I noticed in the newspaper the other day that the divorce rate is actually down in Canada, and so I think that's a strong indication that this is not something that, if you open the floodgates, if you are less compassionate, that suddenly people are going to be running to divorce courts because they have a simple problem. But it does, what the Pope did say today, is an important message, because the family is, of course, at the very core and heart of any country.
I think, too, that, as mentioned earlier by Father Ray, the whole increasing emphasis on family preparation, marriage preparation, family support, is really the other side of the coin. We can spend a lot of time looking at what one would call the restrictions that exist. But I think for most people who've been in a pastoral situation, it's the kind of support and understanding that's being given in order that families and couples can get through the difficult, sometimes very painful experiences that they pass through.
Getting through the difficulty, I think there is where the Pope really puts his finger on the pulse. I know myself, because of my North American background, that I put a lot of stock in my own effort, and I want to be able to do it on my own. And I can go from a high of being real presumptuous and taking myself too seriously one day to dragging my tail around feeling like I've just had it and can't do anything more in the next. It's sort of like oscillating between unwarranted optimism and really unwarranted despair. And that's where I think hope comes in, because hope isn't optimistic. Hope, and that's what the Holy Father's been trying to emphasize, that hope really is working us through with the preciousness that we receive because we are men and women, daughters and sons of the Father.
Any final comments, Father Corvo, on what has been a rainy but a very inspiring day nonetheless?
I just kind of find it humorous how they refer to this rain as Newfoundland mist.
Well, you've only been down here for 6 weeks. Wait till you're here for 6 months, and you'll find that perhaps you'll hit a real rainstorm.
I think we should say in defense of Newfoundland that all this summer, because we've been down here a fair bit preparing for the visit, it has been a marvelous summer here. The sun has split the trees. People have had a summer in Newfoundland like you wouldn't believe. It's unfortunate that we've had the kind of weather we've had today, but this has been an incredibly beautiful summer in all of eastern Canada, but very much so here in Newfoundland.
Well, I'm very happy, David, that the weather has been good, at least in Quebec the first day. I hope this is not going to be a forerunner of more bad weather as the Pope travels across the country. But anyway, I don't think Newfoundland ever needs any defense. Newfoundland and Labrador are absolutely great, rain or shine. By the way, speaking of Newfoundland, just again a reminder to our viewers in Newfoundland and Labrador that we will have further coverage in your region of the Pope's visit to the Basilica and later to Memorial University, where he will talk to young people. That will be on the regional network in Newfoundland and Labrador. And also, we'll have a recap on the network later tonight. Consult your local listings. Tomorrow, CBC News specials continuing coverage of the papal visit to Canada will continue with the Pope's visit to Moncton, New Brunswick. Check again your local listings, because this trip is so long that it's very easy for us to lose track of it, but I believe that it is 11 o'clock Eastern Time, which would be 10 o'clock Atlantic or Maritime Time, and 10:30 in Newfoundland. Thank you very much, David McDonald, Father Joe Higgins, and Father Ray Corriveau. I'm Larry Stout. For all of us at CBC News Specials, thank you for joining us, and goodbye from St. John's, Newfoundland.